My wife Pam grew up in a very classy household. The house was decorated beautifully and carefully. Every detail had a purpose. At their house, every meal was a presentation. The colors coordinated, the utensils matched. Food and plates, they weren't just thrown out on the table. They were arranged carefully. Each dish was made to look as good as it tasted. Bottles, jars, cans, that was all banned from the table. Instead, condiments were placed in dishes that matched everything else on the table. Hearing me describe this, you may say, this is all a bit too much. Like eating a meal at that house must be uncomfortable and very stuffy. Like you have to come down to dinner in your black tuxedo or your beautiful black cocktail dress. That couldn't be farther from the truth. This was a table prepared in love. A table that told anyone sitting at it that they were cared for and worthy of great preparation. In Psalm 23, there's this phrase, "You prepare a table before me." In the ancient language, the word prepare carries deep meaning. It means to arrange, set, or put in order. It refers to a king's table that would be prepared for private or sacred use. A seat at this table would be highly valued. The psalmist says that God, our Father and Shepherd, prepares a table for us. He carefully sets it in place, arranges it, and lays it in order to sit with us, to dine with us, to be with us, and to hear us. And what a meal! If we read further in the psalm, we find that God will anoint our heads with oil. Literally in Hebrew, He will make us fat. Fat with His presence until our cups overflow and we get saturated with God. It's hard to imagine what God's abundance looks like. The Bible tries to describe it using images and metaphors. It tries to help us understand the magnitude of the offer God makes, the immensity of what's been prepared for us. So we get images, like the table, or like dead bones laying on the ground that get up and dance around, or like a vineyard that produces so many grapes you can't possibly collect them all. But the one biblical image that's become most real to me about God's abundance, living water. In Israel, water comes from three sources. One is a well. That's basically stagnant groundwater that you dig deeply to get to. Another is a cistern. It's basically a giant rainwater holding tank. The third is the best source of water. It's an underground stream of running water. They literally call it living water. And it's such amazing water that it gives you life. Once, when I was traveling in Israel, we spent the whole day in the desert. We were hot, sweaty, dirty, and exhausted. 120 degrees will do that to you. That's when our guide brought us to En-Gedi, one of the oldest springs of living water in Israel. I have to say, when I got there, I crawled up this cliff and I sat in this little seat on the rock and I let the waterfall just run over my head. I mean, before I got in there, I was toast. But as I sat there, I started to get refreshed and renewed and started to feel alive again. When I came out, I felt like a new person. Even the stinky, smelly shirt I had worn all day smelled like new. I had been washed and remade in that water. And in that moment, I understood. Life is dry and difficult. So often we feel like we're trudging through a desert. But God, He meets us. Our shepherd is there with us. He prepares an abundant table before our face to welcome us and to wash over our lives so that we can stand in the face of any difficulty. All He asks is that we accept His invitation. Will you sit at the table with God this week? My wife Pam traveled to India last fall, and while she was there,